Hey, I'm Wes Doss from Khyber, and coming from both a law enforcement and a military background, I've had the opportunity to use a lot of different gear, a lot of different equipment, under a pretty wide array of conditions, both in training and operationally. And outside of all that, I've had some experience with a number of manufacturers, working directly for them in that training and marketing capacity. And for 7 years, I used to work for a company based out of Oregon by the name of Crimson Trace. And Crimson Trace is the maker of probably one of the better handgun mounted systems of lasers for small arms. And one of my jobs there was, as the training director, was to run around the country and try and make their product make sense, or strictly the use of lights and lasers make sense to the law enforcement and military market. And I found in the United States, where we tend to embrace kind of the odd side of technology, or the more direct side of technology, and the less on the weapon side, a little bit less inception of that device out on small arms in most departments. And to me, it was always kind of mind-boggling, because in a very short order, I could demonstrate how the level of effectiveness, when used properly, of a laser sighting device, whether it be a visibility-related issue or a positional issue, could certainly be a game changer on the part of the officer involved in the situation. And just a lot of agencies just didn't want to embrace those. And some of the things that I heard are kind of indicative of kind of where we've gone with a lot of senior administration in departments. I was at a major trade show event, a law enforcement related event, and I was doing a keynote presentation to a use of force training committee. And I had a chief from a department come up and tell me that he likes them, but he'll never let his officers use them. And the reason being is that they permanently blind people and they burn skin. And it's like, you got me there. I mean, seriously? This is a 5 milliwatt laser operating somewhere between 1 and probably 3 or 4 milliwatts. It peaks. It's eye safe. It's essentially the same laser with a better lens on it that you've got in like a laser pointer you'd have in a classroom. But he saw a movie somewhere where somebody burst into flames when the laser touched them. And I remember talking to this guy, and somewhere in the course of the conversation, I asked, I said, so you guys have a traffic division? And he goes, well, yeah. You know, it's a big revenue builder and it's an enhancer for our community. So great. I said, you guys run radar? I mean, because I know there's places around the country that don't, but I mean, oh, yeah. We're running a LiDAR system. Oh, well, LiDAR. Oh, so a low-grade IR laser that is higher than 5 milliwatts that's used for speed detection and essentially communication. And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, you're not worried about that setting drivers on fire as they go down the road? And he goes, well, see, it's different. Well, how is that? He goes, well, because I can't see it. It can't hurt me. And it's like, Chief, I flunked physics like everybody else did, but I'm telling you, whether you can see it or not, light's light. And he wanted to argue that. I've also had other folks tell me that they didn't like them because of the dependence that an individual would have on a laser. Yet, you're hard-pressed to find a department rifle that doesn't have some sort of red dot optic on top of it. You're hard-pressed to find a handgun now or a long gun now that doesn't have a white light attached to it. Dependence is going to be based on training and how the department manages the in-service side of that and how they keep their officers prepared. The lazy side of it is simply issue a device and then leave you to your own devices. And under those circumstances, yeah, people will take the path of least resistance and become adapted to whatever's going to make it easier for them to operate that tool. But if we force them through training and we mandate certain standards and we keep them to those standards, then it really isn't a big issue. The reality is that nothing communicates your nonverbal intent faster than a green or a red dot dancing on somebody's chest. It's a universal, device that breaks down language barriers. I can attest to that. I've seen one dazzled across the windshield of a car following a convoy too many times, too close, overseas. And all you hear is the resounding sound of brakes locking up as that vehicle starts to pull back away from that convoy. It is an easy identifier and indicator of what's getting ready to happen next. And in that capacity, it has this great ability to begin to quickly de-escalate a set of circumstances unlike anything else. without even verbal words sometimes. The shortcoming to that is everybody that has a taser has a laser on a taser. And the more that we use a taser, the greater the assimilation to the taser and the laser, and people begin to associate red dot lasers with this less lethal device that they can either fail or they've had shortcomings with. So you even in training, you've got to get to the point where you're teaching your officers to convince the public that this is not attached to a less lethal device, that this is actually attached to a lethal element, and I have to be able to communicate those desires to you. But beyond that, here's a device that costs less than a lot of the other modifications that are done to a weapon, and it could be a significant game changer when used correctly, used appropriately under the right circumstances, and the trainers in the department are equipped with the ability to train people on it to that level. The unfortunate side of it is that it's still a device that is wrapped up in controversy, and it's very slow for people to adopt at an agency level. Civilians, left and right, have bought laser grips, self-defense related folks, people concerned, CCW holders, people carrying small guns with very small sight radiuses. This has been a natural for this device. But the reality is, from a professional side, an agency side, an organizational side, there's very few things that are out there that can really up the ante any faster than the adequate use, or the reliable use, the responsible use of a laser under those circumstances.